that we had commercial people willing to move to SAFe with the help of R&D, and not the opposite way around. So we had actually recruited someone from outside who was formerly working for Qantas, the Australian airline, and he was using SAFe already. And so when he came to Amadeus, he said, I want the same. Why don't we use SAFe? And again, we were in the decision-making process to change from our own in-house model to SAFe. So we said, why not? Let's go. So we had the couple, commercial head with development head. That's very interesting, because then we can talk, we can launch Agile Release Train, we can create a success story aligning the business with the development teams. Step by step, we figured out that we had to revisit the strategy, the OKRs behind, so that we really aligned the different structures. So from the business units, many intention around OKRs and strategy redefinition to clarify and communicate strongly was decided. And so everything converged to Lean Portfolio Management, and so we introduced Lean Portfolio Management very early in our transformation journey as well. This is not enough. So we had to build the famous Lean Agile Center of Excellence. So my team today is a line structure that is in the heart here. There's no clicker, no, okay, here. And we have a hub and spoke model, meaning that my team is the central lace, and I report to the CTO and to what we call people and culture, that is formerly known as human resources, because it's important to me to have the depth in the technical side with the engineering people, but also to have the transversality of the change where we deal with people and the evolution of culture. So that's where we are, and we have different spokes, so relays, small hubs, small points of contacts for addressing the changes according to what SAFe is about in their own organization, so that we are not alone and we are not a bottleneck. That's very important, because if we are always expected to be here to help and guide and coach and do the whole implementation roadmap, we are 17,000 employees in the world, again, about 200 countries. We can't be everywhere, let's be realistic. So it was important for us to invest in this hub and spoke model. And so we also created an Agile Release Train to connect all those dots. And on top, there are different cycles here. We've introduced the notion of SAFe champions for people who are upskilled to the SAFe SPC certification, so SAFe Practice Consultant, that are relays in their organization, but not acting on the transformation as such. They are more influencers in the organizations. And then we have release train engineers, solution train engineers, sorry, and lean portfolio managers. So our train now, do what you preach, even if I don't want to be dogmatic. It's important to also make sure that you live what you are promoting, what you are training, what you are teaching. So it's really interesting that we've built our transformation train very early. We are now at our PI 21, I think. So it's a long time now. And we always find ways to improve. It's still not perfect, even though it's only a train of SAFe practice consultants. So you see, even the ones coaching and implementing SAFe need also to learn and adjust their ways of working every time. So 4 dedicated teams for transforming, so making all the steps of the implementation roadmap, basically, and 2 transversal teams for all about people, all the jobs, all the support in their career path, evolution, those kind of topics. Communities, we have 120 community of practice, so it's really important to connect the networks. And events, we are organizing regular internal and external events as well. And another team that is about measuring. It's very important to measure. It's not always easy to measure. How to prove the importance and the value of the transformation, how to prove that what you are doing as a coach is actually solving the problems that you stated initially. That's really a challenge. And so we are trying to invest guidelines, dashboards, things like that for introducing these measurements and tooling part. How do we prioritize? Well, this is a transformation that touches every function of the company. So initially it was started by the development groups, as many other companies, but then moving to an enterprise agility way of thinking, we had to prioritize with every representative of every function. So we introduced the change step by step, and today we have either ExCom members or their representatives to actually see what's going on within this enterprise agility evolution and how we need to prioritize against the operational condition that we have. So we have a strategic portfolio review every quarter where we are showing the achievements from the past PI and showing the priorities that we propose for the next one. And to be really more operationally connected, we are having a portfolio sync with representatives that are more operational, as the name says. It's more about connecting with the epic owners, like people who know what's going on in their own business lines. They have the topics, they can have time to elaborate the epic, they can initiate the statements and so on, so that we are operating clearly our prioritization. So here we are now, after we've started this journey in 2018, we've progressively moved, and well, today I'm really happy because we have now 10 trains that have been launched last PI autonomously, thanks to the spoke. If you remember the hub and spoke model that I talked about, we were not involved. We were advisors, but we were not the coaches on the ground. And so that is also very interesting for us to make sure that we can deploy and we can sustain the change on the long term. I was talking initially about the condition about the training. When we were doing our homemade stuff, we had one poor training. It was okay, but I mean, it was very not efficient enough. SAFE comes with a wonderful training offer. And so we've executed all those classes. We are really focusing on making sure that everybody has the right training. Because the training part is only like 10% of the learning journey for the individuals. And despite all the energy to give those classes, in practice, people are doing something totally different. You don't know why, but that's the journey to change management. So if you are training and telling the people that is the way the practice should come and why and the rationale and the outcome and the benefits of all what you are trying to reach, well, they do something else. And so you need to make sure that the training is the first initial step, but then coach, educate, coach, come back, coach, and so on. What is interesting as well is that after those 5 years of SAFE implementation and launch, we've started with some accepting some consensus, trade-offs. Obviously, we have to make a lot. And at some point now, after those years, they come back and they say, hey, finally, that specific context doesn't work. Can you come back and help us? Sure, we are here. We were telling you that you should have done A, but you did B since the beginning. Now let's come back to A. That's interesting. So that's also part of the journey. And it is about being resilient to the change and making sure that you put the right seeds in the ground so that later on in the future, things will flourish better. Conclusion? Already? It goes fast, huh? One success story is key when you start trying to reach the best conditions. Obviously, I'm sure that if you've started your SAFE journey, you must feel the same. But we really tried first to have those business and development people together. that has been really key. And now it's homogeneously shared that we are having a lot of benefits through that. The developers and the business people, they talk together. Map the structure that I was mentioning, obviously launch Lean Portfolio. Normally in the implementation roadmap, the launch of the portfolio is pretty late in the roadmap once you've actually achieved a certain maturity. Finally, at Amadeus, it was easier for us to start at the same time with the Lean Portfolio Management to ensure that executives, people at the head of the strategy and the decision-making process were aligned up front so that the train could be better equipped in terms of priorities. We've improved then the predictability and some figures like that to make sure that we could have this success story shared and communicated, and then we could generate more feedback, more culture of feedback, step by step. And the creation of a LACE is really recommended to have this guiding coalition to build the journey, to have the steps, to really make sure that things are happening. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Podemos ir al líder.
Questions? Safe deployment team, are they close to the ground assisting to... if they change? Safe deployment team, are they close to the ground assisting to Scrum or DevOps events? And with which cadence? So we indeed have team members who are taking care of one given transformation in one given organization, business line usually, and we do take care of SAFe and DevOps as much as we can, and we give also SAFe DevOps classes. On top, we've introduced a very active DevOps community. So there are lots of people really engaged, senior developers, principal engineers, architects, making it lively to see how they can build as well the DevOps culture. They've also organized a DevOps Day that was a kind of similar event around DevOps at Amadeus. I didn't mention, but still are not perfect. Maybe you feel like, wow, that's super. No, we have still a lot of things to improve, and DevOps is most probably one of those. Which tool do you use to support Agile? We use Jira, massively Jira, a bit of Rally in some of the acquisitions we've made in the US. ServiceNow is not used for managing the Agile teams, but more for the incident management. And Azure is not used that much. Some teams are using some boards, but that is definitely not our tooling. We are using heavily Jira. Hints about how to implement SAFe in large organizations and avoid failure. All what I shared. There are plenty of other things that we could share, but yeah, basically it's about starting small, trying to create the story, and then step by step showing the benefits. What we've introduced recently that maybe was a bit late in our journey, but we learn, right, is the kind of mutual agreement. It's now something that we elaborate with the business executives that are willing to change, willing to go to a safe transformation. We make sure that we are listing a kind of small contract, even though I'm not very fan of the contract name, but it's about making sure that we are listing the right problems to solve, that we are clear on what is potentially solved by SAFe, because SAFe is not a silver bullet. We won't change everything. Everything won't be perfect after SAFe. So we need to be clear on that so that people, like Mark said, they are looking for the best thing that you apply, and in 2 months everything is perfect. No. So we need to align that first, and then also to baseline the measures. When we started the introduction of SAFe, it was not that easy to discuss about a kind of contract at that time. We could have been perceived as very rigid. And people at that time were really pushy to move to SAFe. That was great at some point when we generated the first success story. So when you have this enthusiasm to move to SAFe, you do your best to manage expectations at the same time, and it's true that we didn't do that, and it could have been maybe a better way. Next step to Amadeus with SAFE. Oh, but so many. We're having a big backlog. Now we are introducing, so Mark mentioned who is familiar with Lean budgeting and Lean portfolio management. We are heavily introducing Lean budgeting. We are piloting our vision and the tooling behind to connect with finance. So that is ongoing. And we are starting to address agile legal contracts so that we can improve the terms and conditions with our customers who are also moving to agile SAFE. Many customers now are using SAFE as well. That is really helpful now for having the same vocabulary and same understanding. And so we are trying to see how we can also simplify the contractual process. That is just starting. But then I have a backlog for 10 years, I think, so I can spend some time. Can make an introduction of Jira portfolio later on with the portfolio. So what business benefits have you achieved that have allowed your transformation to scale so well? We started with the predictability and clearly the connection between the business and the development people. It was the person who came from Cantas again was really an influencer. He's a commercial person. So when he was talking about SAFE, he could convince anyone. So that was our best promoter, you know, like he was on stage in front of all our senior leadership people, and he was like, SAFE? I mean, at the end of his speech, you're like, okay, there's no other choice. It's obvious that we need to move to SAFE. So that was really a clear promotion point. But yeah, predictability is reinforced. The PI planning, the people are really enjoying it, despite all the cadence and so on. It's always still chaotic anyway, but it's really creating something between the people. And I believe as well it has been a true condition for inclusivity. As we have multiple sites across the globe, it's really difficult to share the same experience when we leave an event like that. Either we were starting to have hybrid, where people were joining on site, so you had like 50 people who had the chance to be in the same room, and 20 remote that were most of the time a bit ignored or forgotten across the journey. So now that we are running a lot of PI planning events remotely, full remote, well, since COVID, obviously, it's been a similar experience for everybody. And so you didn't have anymore this feeling of being remote compared to the big sites that we have. We have two big sites, mainly in Nice, in the south of France, and in Bangalore, in India. So either you were there or you were out, you know. So now that we have these remote conditions, it has brought a very interesting way to live the experience. Alors, why are you using 16 actually, different Lean portfolios? Who didn't catch the number? I'm just joking. So 16 different portfolios. Actually, when you look at the layers and the different layers, I didn't mention the numbers, but so we are 17,000 employees. Obviously, not all of them will work with SAFE, let's be honest. But at the end, we have about 9,000 employees in what we call the engineering community. So you add to that all the product management, marketing management, so it makes about, let's say, roughly 10,000 people to work together. One single Lean portfolio management, that was initially what we had in SAFE in the 4.5 version or so. We were really struggling with the way to implement it. And so we talked with Scaled Agile and we said, you know, we have what we call business domains. It represents about 1,000 or 2,000 employees working together on the same solution. Can we have different portfolios, multiple layers of portfolios to connect all that? And they said, yes, sure, let's try that. We've seen that in other companies. And so we've created a cascading way to manage our portfolios. So we have, what is important is really to focus on what is the vision, what is the strategy, and how every domain, with their own background and experience on the field can actually contribute to this strategy. And that's the way we connect the portfolios together. So it's epic of epic, basically. Does that answer to the question? Yeah? 16? No? I don't know, what, hopefully I put my glasses. I was not sure I had to put my glasses, but finally, do you work with value streams where they're easy to map? Yeah? It's okay? So, yeah, we started without value stream. That's maybe clearly something that we should not have done. But it was like that, one of the trade-offs to start with. Now we are getting back to, since 2020, actually, when we decided to move from the internal LACE to drive the implementation, we started with value stream identification exercise in the organizations that we were having. And step by step, it was not easy to embark the top leaders to reflect on what are the value streams of Amadeus, clearly. So we had to start from a bottom layer, and so we started to see how it could connect. And now we are talking more with the executives because we are recognized, now that's also a part of the journey, doing things better and showing that it's working better. And now people can listen to us to talk about the value streams. But what is a value stream? What is a value stream? Huh? You might have hundreds of definitions here, although it's quite simple, it's the different steps to make money, right, or to make value. So we have also got the chance to talk with the strategy people to align about what is the operational value stream for Amadeus, and then how we can have development value streams for the different line organizations. So now we have a mapping of that. It's interesting. It's really interesting for launching the conversation. But basically, our line structure, our hierarchical structure, is very well aligned with the solutions and the business. So it was quite easy to connect, let's be honest. I continue the questions because I can stay for hours. I love it. You mentioned measurement is key. Which metrics are you collecting? Predictability from the business value in the PI that we are comparing, what has been committed versus what has been effectively done. That's something that we do for every train, and then we can aggregate this number per domain, per unit lines, etc. We also make surveys on engagement. Because if you remember, I mentioned that my group is reporting to human resources, what we call people and culture. So for me, it's very important that this change is not impacting the engagement of our employees. Because that's the only asset we have. We are a software company, so basically if people are not engaged, we are losing all the value of the company. So to me, it was important to assess the engagement, and so we are regularly asking the question to the employees, are you satisfied with SAFE? Would you recommend SAFE to your colleagues? And so that is great. So far, so good. The Net Promoter Score is okay. But it's important really to connect. We had a drop at some point, and so we had to really take more actions to make sure that everybody was looking at the right value behind the framework. So. We are investigating now, because it's not easy with the different tools to connect with time to market and flow metrics. So depending on how you look, if you zoom in or you zoom out, it's not easy to measure. So we are looking at how we can now build a complete tool chain to connect the different tools that we are having across the steps to deliver value. And obviously we monitor quality. But that was done before. I mean, SAFE didn't bring that. We monitor quality, actually the number of incidents, to make sure that we are at least stable. We don't perceive yet a strong reduction of incident, but it's at least very stable, so we are quite happy. Could you give a bit more of detail on the hub and spoke model for the LACE? That's another presentation. I can come back next year. It's a full presentation. And soon, normally, crossing fingers, we should publish a post in Scaled Agile on the LACE summit that we organized last year to have head of LACE together at Amadeus to share their good practices and the way we are actually configuring the setup. So you should have also more insight very soon on Scaled Agile. What are the key metrics you use to measure the success and performance of the organization? I think it's the same question as before, if you don't mind. I'll take a last one. Safe deployment team, are they close to the ground? No, I did it. I think I covered it. Thank you all.
Many thanks, Sandra.